Hey everyone, my name is Alexandra and I'm a watercolor artist. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to paint Buttercup wildflowers. This will be part 3 of my watercolor wildflowers for beginners tutorials. Hope you guys enjoy. Today for paints, I'm using a combination of Art Philosophy's Watercolor Confetti set and Winsor & Newton paints that I have mixed on my palette on the side here. From my Art Philosophy palette, I'm using Papaya, Black, and Brown. And from my paint palette on the side here, I'm using Winsor & Newton Perylene Green and Burnt Sienna. For paintbrushes, I'm using Opus Allegro number 4 and 0. Today I'm using a 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, a napkin for drying your paintbrush, 2 cups of water, 1 cup is for clean water and 1 cup is for dirty. For this flower, what we're gonna do is start with a pencil and draw really light lines for the stems, just so that we know where to paint everything. What I will get you guys to do, we can do kind of as many flowers as you want to paint on this one, but I'm just gonna draw 1 line in the center, so really light with my pencil. That might be hard to see on the camera. Coming straight down, and then I'm gonna do one starting from outside and we'll bring it in. So again, you guys want to make sure that you're careful to do very faint lines, just because once the water goes on them, the pencil won't erase after. So I did 1 more line on the right side, coming from the top, bringing it in. And we will start with that. If we want to add any more flowers as we go, then we can do that. So essentially what we're using these for is a starting point to know where to put your flowers. So we will start with our number 4 paintbrush, and with this one it's going to be a few steps just because we're painting in layers. So we'll paint the first layer and then we'll have to wait for it to dry, go on to the next. So I'm just going to rinse my paintbrush, make sure that there's no other colors on it. And I'm going into my paint palette here. I'm going to use my Papaya yellow color. And I don't have a mixing tray on this palette, so I'm just going to mix it over here. So for the first layer, we want the yellow to be really light. So I'm gonna mix my paintbrush back into the water and again into my clean cup. My paintbrush has water on it now, and I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of the yellow paint, test it on my napkin to make sure it's the color that I want. All right, so the first flower we're gonna do is going to be at the top here, and this one will have it facing forward so that all the petals open up towards us. So you're going to start with the tip of your paintbrush on your paper, and you're going to apply pressure as you pull back. So we're making really light petals. With the yellow, it's a little bit hard to see, so I might paint mine a little bit darker just so that you guys can see what I'm doing here. So I'm doing another one, and I'm going all the way around. I'm leaving a white space in the center, and that's where we'll put the middle of the flower. So I'm doing these kind of in a star shape. So first petal, second 2, and then I'll do 2 down below. So same idea for all of them. Tip of the paintbrush on your paper, apply pressure as you pull back, and you're just getting a nice kind of leaf shape. Right, so same idea for the next one. We want the paint to be nice and light, and we're gonna do this one here. It's gonna be opening up to the side there. So same shape of petals, but we won't work our way all the way around. So you're gonna start with 1, and I'm just trying to fill mine in a bit more so that you guys can see. So the next one, we're gonna go right beside and have it downward facing and overlapping a little bit. And we'll do the same with the last one. So we're gonna add another layer on top of these after, which will help you guys as we go along. So this one I'm gonna do similar idea, but I'm just gonna do a smaller one that looks like it's just starting to bloom. So I'm only gonna do 2 of those petals, and I'm gonna have them overlapping. All right, so now we can't really do too much with these until it dries. So we're actually gonna paint the stems next. So we're gonna take our 0 paintbrush, so our small paintbrush, and go into our paint here. For the stems, I'm gonna use my Winsor and Newton paint. This one's a nice muted green. And for these flowers, they're really delicate, so we want the stems to look really delicate. So I am focusing on using the very tip of my paintbrush. I have paint on my paintbrush, but it's pretty watered down, just so that it gives us a nice light color, and then we can always go back in and add more. So that's even a little bit too dark. I'm just gonna add some water. All right, so now following the line where my pencil was, I'm gonna do a really thin stem coming down. So again, I'm using the very, very tip of my paintbrush, starting from where my flower is. I'm doing a thin line, and I'm attaching these second flowers to the main stem. Now, if you still see some pencil, we can always go back and erase it after. For the leaves of these, once again, I'm taking the really light paint, and I'm using my small paintbrush for these just so that we can get some nice skinny leaves. So starting with the tip of my paintbrush, put it on the paper and apply pressure as I pull back, and I lift off as I near the stem. So we're just gonna add a few of these in. And you guys can spread them out as much as you want around your flower. So I'm making them a little bit wavy, not super straight. This gives them a really delicate, whimsical look. And any ones that didn't quite connect with the main stems, you can go in with your paintbrush and just add a little line after to connect them. And this one I'm just gonna go over and make it a little bit darker. All right, so now we're gonna get back to these main flowers here. So I'm taking my bigger paintbrush again. I'm gonna go into my yellow, but I want these to have a little bit of a warmer look to them. So I have a burnt sienna right here that I'll mix in. This will give it some contrast against the petals that we've painted underneath. So we'll start with these little side petals. You'll see this one, I have 3 petals here. So what I'm gonna do is the point of these petals we're painting is gonna be in the white space in between the 2. So we're doing the same concept as we did with the other petals. Start at the tip and apply pressure as you pull back. I'm just filling it in there. So I'll do the same thing on this side. Starting in the white space, starting at the tip and applying pressure as I pull back. And for this one, I'm gonna add some petals on the side here. And I'll do one more over here. So starting at the tip, these are just little mini ones for the bottom. Now we're gonna do the exact same thing for this one, but instead of doing 4 petals, I'll only do 3. So I'll do one in the middle, When you're painting with a color like yellow, mixing in things like orange are really nice just to add more depth, and it gives you a really good opportunity to use layering, which for flowers that are delicate looking like this, it's really pretty. All right, so for this flower, what I'm gonna do is go over it, but this time instead of going in between the gaps, I'm actually gonna go straight over top of the petal and just make them a bit darker, a bit brighter. I'm actually only gonna go over half, rinse my paintbrush in the clean water, and I'm gonna paint on the other side and just allow the colors to mix together. So we'll do the same over here. If it doesn't perfectly overlap, that's okay. So I needed a little bit more paint there. Now I'm gonna go in and just re-wet it a little bit to blend the colors better. All right, now we're just gonna add a little bit more detailing to the leaves. So what I find when I'm painting is sometimes I have to jump around a little bit just because we have to wait for one layer to dry before we can work on it again. So going back into the same green that I used here, I'll take a little bit more this time to make it darker. And I'm actually gonna go over my leaves, but I'm not gonna perfectly go over them. I'm gonna go slightly to the side. So again, we're just using this technique for layering. And I didn't quite have enough water on there. So starting from the tip, I'm gonna apply pressure as I pull back, but I'm following along the shape of the leaf and just going beside. You'll see it gives it what looks almost like shadowing. So we'll do that with all our leaves. And then if I want to, I can go back over my stem in parts. So not necessarily the whole way down, just to give it some shadowing, some more depth. And then I want to add some really tiny leaves just to attach the stem to the flower. So I'm going to do a very mini version of those other leaves that we did. And it doesn't necessarily need to follow right along the flower. I can start kind of on the outside and curve it in. We'll just do a few of these. So we're going to do the same thing on this flower here. And then I tend to just round it off as I attach it to the stem there, since that's more realistic to how they look when you see them out in nature. All right, so we are almost done. The last thing we need to do is add the center to this flower. So for this, I'm just going in, I'm gonna mix a bit of my black and brown. I'm just trying to get a nice dark brown color. And I'll just test on my napkin here. I want it to be pretty dark, so quite a bit of paint on my paintbrush, not a lot of water. And I'm going in with my small paintbrush, and we're just gonna do tiny little dots in the center. So it's a cluster of dots in the middle of this flower. So they're really small. You see that I have them overlapping here. They're not necessarily all separated from each other. Right, and there you have it. We have painted a buttercup. If you guys want me to show you a version of this with more details, then leave a comment below and I would love to do that for you in the future. Thanks for joining, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, and comment below what wildflower you'd like to learn next. Also, I absolutely love seeing what you guys are painting, so if you followed along, make sure to take a picture, share it on Instagram, tag me at Alexandra Victoria Studio so I can see what you're working on. See you next time.